You are fired. Effective immediately. Are you sure? How dare you? A common cleaner.
To understand why a 61-year-old cleaning woman could stop a floor manager cold with 3 words, you have to go back 6 weeks, before any of this became a story people would tell for years. Ruth Ann Whitfield had worked the 3rd floor of Camden Mutual Insurance for 2 years and 4 months. She started at 5 in the evening, after the day shift cleared out, and finished before the building's lights came back on for the morning crew. Most employees never saw her face. They saw a cart. A mop bucket. A shape moving quietly between the cubicles they left behind. What none of them knew, what she made sure none of them knew, was that Ruth Ann had spent 22 years as a senior compliance auditor for a firm twice the size of Camden Mutual. She'd read balance sheets the way other people read the morning paper. She'd testified in front of regulators. She'd retired early, not by choice, but because her husband's medical bills had eaten through their savings faster than either of them had planned for, and a pension alone wasn't enough to keep the lights on. So she took the only job that would hire a woman her age without asking too many questions. And she kept her eyes open, because old habits don't retire just because you do. The first thing she noticed was small. A time sheet, half crumpled in a recycling bin near Denise Calloway's office, showing hours that didn't match the hours Ruth Ann had watched people actually work. She almost didn't think twice about it. Almost. The second thing she noticed was Kayla Simmons. Kayla was 26, a junior analyst 2 years into her first real job, the kind of employee who still said thank you to the cleaning staff and meant it. Ruth Ann had watched her stay past 10 o'clock 4 nights a week for over a month, watched the exhaustion settle into her shoulders like weather. One night, restocking the break room, Ruth Ann found her crying quietly at her desk, phone open to a bank app with a balance that didn't cover rent. "You alright, honey?" Ruth Ann asked. Kayla wiped her face fast, embarrassed. "I'm fine. Just tired. We're all just tired right now." "Overtime?" Kayla hesitated. That hesitation told Ruth Ann everything. "We're not supposed to call it that," she finally said. "Denise says if we log it as overtime, it messes up her numbers for the district review. She says if we can't keep up without complaining, there's people who take our spot in a heartbeat." Ruth Ann didn't say anything that night. She just remembered. Over the following weeks, she watched closer. She noticed which employees Denise singled out in meetings, always the ones who couldn't easily afford to quit. A single mother in accounts receivable. A man in his 50s 2 years from his pension. Kayla, still paying off student loans. Denise had built her entire management style around a simple, ugly math: fear works best on people who have the most to lose. And there was something else, something Ruth Ann noticed almost by accident. Denise never spoke to the cleaning staff. Not once, not even to say good evening. She looked through people like Ruth Ann the way she looked through the numbers she was hiding, as if neither could see her back. Ruth Ann began keeping records. Not out of ambition. Out of the same instinct that had made her good at her old job for 22 years, some things, once you see them clearly, you cannot make yourself unsee. By the 3rd week, Ruth Ann had what any auditor would recognize as a pattern, not an accident. Timestamps. Screenshots of internal messages left open on unlocked monitors during her overnight shift. A folder, growing quietly on a personal drive, of exactly what Denise Calloway had been telling her staff to hide and exactly what it was costing them. She almost didn't do anything with it. She was 61 years old, working a job that asked nothing of her but silence and a mop, and she had learned the hard way that speaking up rarely protected the person who did it. But then Marcus Boyd, the floor's IT lead, made a comment in the break room one night that changed her mind. "Half these people are one bad month from losing their apartment," he said to no one in particular, staring at his coffee. "And she's up there worried about her district bonus." Marcus didn't know Ruth Ann was listening. Most people didn't. That was still the plan, until Kayla. It happened on a Tuesday. Denise called an emergency floor meeting at 4:45, 15 minutes before most people were supposed to leave, and announced a new, voluntary, unpaid work initiative disguised as team commitment. When Kayla, exhausted and out of patience, quietly asked whether the extra hours would be compensated, Denise smiled the kind of smile that had no warmth in it at all. "If commitment's too much to ask," Denise said, loud enough for the whole floor to hear, "there's a line of people who'd be grateful for your desk." Kayla didn't say anything. She just nodded and looked down at her hands, the way people do when they've learned that speaking again will only make it worse. Ruth Ann watched that exchange from the hallway, mop in hand, invisible as always. And something in her, something that had been patient for 6 weeks, finally decided patience had done its job. That night, after the floor cleared, she didn't go home. She sat at Kayla's desk, pulled a blank notepad from the young woman's drawer, and wrote a single sentence on it in careful handwriting: "You have not done anything wrong. Keep every message she sends you. A friend on this floor." She left it under Kayla's keyboard, where only Kayla would find it. Then she went to work on the folder. Which brings us back to the hallway, to the badge on the floor, to 2 words that stopped an entire office cold. "Are you sure?" Denise laughed, the kind of laugh that means the conversation is already over, and turned to walk away. She had no idea she'd just made the last mistake of her career. The notification hit one screen first, then another, then 12 at once, that soft, insistent chime the internal system used for priority alerts, rippling across the floor like something dropped into still water. People stopped mid-sentence. A coffee mug froze halfway to someone's mouth. "Wait, is this real?" The voice belonged to a young analyst 2 rows back. She wasn't asking anyone in particular. She was asking the room. Denise turned around, her expression still hard. "What now?" Nobody answered her directly. They just kept looking at their screens. Then, slowly, one by one, they looked at Ruth Ann. Not with pity this time. With something closer to recognition. Denise crossed the floor in 6 sharp steps and shoved herself in front of the nearest monitor. She scrolled up. "Read." Scrolled down, then back up, like maybe the words would rearrange themselves into something that made sense. 12 employees had worked unpaid, unlogged overtime over a 6-week period, at the direct instruction of their floor manager. Every instruction was there in writing. A voice from the back, trembling but clear. "We reported it months ago." Another joined it. "You told us to stay quiet or start looking." Denise spun around. "You stop. All of you, just stop." Ruth Ann's voice, when it came, wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. "You weren't exposed because you made mistakes," she said. "You were exposed because you believed no one in this building would ever look you in the eye." The room didn't breathe. She opened a second file. A chain of emails, time-stamped and threaded back 14 months, every instruction signed and dated. Marcus, standing near the door, said quietly, almost to himself, "That's the internal mail system. That's not a copy." Denise's voice cracked at the edges. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You knew exactly what you were doing," Ruth Ann said. And then, every monitor on the floor switched at once. White text on a black screen, "Administrative access locked." "Override it," Denise said, moving toward the nearest terminal, her voice rising. "Somebody override it right now." "Only a board-level account can unlock that," Marcus said quietly. He wasn't looking at Denise when he said it. He was looking at Ruth Ann. Because in that moment, the room understood something none of them had let themselves consider. The woman in the gray uniform wasn't just holding evidence. She had credentials. Real ones. Ones that predated every person currently standing on that floor. "What are you?" Denise's voice was fracturing now. "What is this?" "Closing what you broke," Ruth Ann said. Denise looked around at the faces that used to belong to her, her team, her authority, and found nothing there anymore. I can explain this, she said. All of it. It's more complicated than it looks. If you'd just give me a chance. Ruth Ann raised one hand. Not dramatic. Just enough. You're not losing everything because of me, she said, stepping closer, 2 slow steps. You're losing it because of how you treated people you decided didn't matter. Kayla stood up near the window, the note from under her keyboard still folded in her pocket where she'd carried it for 3 weeks. You made us change the numbers, she said, her voice shaking but steady underneath it. You told us if we documented what actually happened, we'd be written up. I have the messages, Marcus said. You sent them from your direct line. Voices that had been swallowed for months rose one at a time, not loud, not dramatic. Just true. Denise turned in a slow circle, searching for someone who might come to her defense. Nobody did. It wasn't the silence of people who were afraid anymore. It was the silence of people who no longer were. You're all turning on me at once, Denise said. This is coordinated. No one is turning on you, Ruth Ann said. They're just finally saying what happened. Taryn Gwynn from HR stepped forward from the back of the room, a folder already in her hands. Termination is effective immediately, she said. Please review and sign. Denise stared at the paper. Wait. Just, wait. Not yet, Ruth Ann said. 2 words, cold enough to stop everything. Legal has the full file. Every altered record. Every withheld payment. Every instruction you gave to falsify hours. This will be handled according to regulation. Denise went still. For the first time in longer than anyone on that floor could remember, she had nothing left to say. She signed the paper. She walked to the elevator. No one watched for very long, because the story was already over before she reached the door. The floor was quiet after she left. Not the quiet of people holding their breath. Something different, the first clean air after a long stretch of something stale. Ruth Ann turned to face the room. No podium. No title on a lanyard. Just a woman in a gray uniform who still hadn't picked her badge up off the floor. I know why you stayed quiet, she said. A few people looked down. Not because you agreed with what was happening. Because you thought you had no choice. She let that sit. Starting today, you do. And no one in this building, or any building, has the right to take that from you again. No applause. No cinematic moment. Just people. Some of them standing a little straighter than they had an hour before. Some of them making eye contact for the first time in months. Kayla found her at the elevator before she left that night. That note, she said quietly. That was you. Ruth Ann didn't confirm it, not exactly. She just said, you did nothing wrong. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, not here, not anywhere you land next. 2 weeks later, Camden Mutual's district office announced an internal restructuring. Every employee on that floor received back pay for the unlogged hours, calculated to the dollar, going back 14 months. Kayla used part of hers to finally get ahead on her loans. Marcus got a promotion he'd been passed over for twice. And Ruth Ann Whitfield returned to her cart, her mop, her 5 o'clock start time, because, as it turned out, she liked the quiet of the evening shift, and she'd never once done any of this for credit. She was offered her old kind of position back, a real seat in compliance, benefits and all. She turned it down. I already spent 22 years proving myself to rooms like that one, she told Tara, when she asked why. I don't need to do it twice. The badge she'd left on the floor was found the next morning, placed carefully on her desk. No note, no name. Just the sense that some things don't need an explanation. They just need to be put back where they belong. Because that's the thing about people like Ruth Ann Whitfield. They don't announce their power. They don't need the room to go silent when they walk in. They only need it to go silent when it matters, when someone is finally asking the only question that ever needed asking. Are you sure? Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos.